It is May 18th, and welcome to 208 Fantasy Football. We are going to talk about buy sells. We have one QB dynasty and some trade news for you, as well as fantasy update or fantasy news updates. All that gets started right now. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Justin, how are you today?
Awesome. I'm excited to get the weekend over. As weird as that sounds, we got 3 more days of school and we're out, and then I can really focus on some fantasy football. So
Yeah. Well, certainly fantasy football has you can see the every now and then through the summer, right? Things spike it, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But there's some news that came out with the schedule, so that kind of piques everybody's interest, and we get excited about football. So, let's start off right away. Let's get right into the news and see what's going on.
So I think the biggest signing this week, Valdez Scantling to the Bills to take over maybe that Gabe Davis role. Super funny that he goes from Kansas City to the Bills. I just thought that was funny. He's just going to run a bunch of deep routes. Hopefully he can catch the ball a little bit better. Again, I don't think he's a big-time ad off the waiver wire by any means. And then Goff getting that $212 million contract for 4 years. So that Cousins deal looks a little bit more digestible when I saw that 212. I think that's like $53 million a year. So he got quite a bit of money. So
That's what, and the Lions have been opening up the checkbook this off season. So it's like, wow, guys are getting paid. I think St. Brown got paid and Sewell got paid, and now Goff got paid. So they are on a mission. They talked about being was it knee biters or ankle biters or something like that, and they're absolutely doing it. So
as well as the schedule came out. A lot of people in the dynasty community and the fantasy community are talking a lot about schedules and straight the schedules and fantasy straight the schedules, and of course the whole NFC South has probably one of the most advantageous schedules just because that division's terrible. But like one thing to keep in mind, like all these teams have changed substantially. So don't get so hung up on straight the schedule. Like of course some teams are going to be bad again this year, but just be aware of that. Like I don't think making decisions based on straight the schedule. I don't think that's a very good decision. One thing to keep in mind though, week 14, which I think is usually the last week of the regular season, or sometimes your first week of your playoffs, there are 6 teams on buys. So the Ravens, very predominant fantasy team. Broncos, not so much. Texans, big one. Colts for those AR-15 guys. Patriots, not so much. And then Commanders will have a few guys that contribute to your fantasy league. So something to keep in mind with those stacks. But that's a lot of teams on buys.
Yeah, I think that's what Justin, you nailed it. I think that when you look at the strength of schedule or when the schedule comes out, it's not so much about the strength because I think it's a lot of that's factored in last year and the teams have changed and the rookies have come in and so on and so forth. I think what you're looking at is the buys, who's got what and where people are going to be played, but it's a tool. It's not gospel, I guess is what I would say. It's not like, oh man, strength of schedule is everything. Steelers have, on paper, Steelers have it pretty rough. The Bears have it really easy. The Falcons actually have a pretty good schedule. So, but don't put too much into it. Just be aware of it when you're making your picks in redraft. I know dynasty redrafts are going on, dynasty startups are going on right now, but yeah, be aware of it is all.
For sure.
I'm trying to remember. Let me pull it up here. The Steelers, Patriots are rough, and then your top 3 essentially, again, depending on what site you look at, Atlanta, Chargers, and Bears are your top 3 with the easiest ones. But keep it in mind, and then you can get really deep into it for a strength of schedule around position. So,
yep,
which we won't cover here today. Anything else news-wise, Justin?
No, those are probably the 2 biggest things that I saw this week. Nothing crazy. Again, just be aware like some of the rookie mini camps are still going, so just pay attention to what's coming out of there.
Yep. Yep. And there's plenty of player news that's out there. Ray Rice. I went clear to Ray Rice, but Rice is from KC is it's not looking good on for him at all. So I'm pretty high on Hollywood Brown right now because I think he's gonna pan out nicely for them. But
And the next segment that we're gonna get into, like Matt kind of convinced me of this. I think it was kind of a controversial pick that I had in my draft, but like Matt like was slowly convincing me of why I took this specific player for that reason, because I think Rice is probably gonna get at minimum 8 games. Maybe he gets the whole season. We don't know.
yeah, maybe agreed. Well, that's a good segue, Justin. Let's get right into a review of your draft. You did a 1 QB dynasty draft with the rookies redraft or rookie draft. So let's jump into that and see how that went.
So this is so when I got this team, we were an expansion basically. So they were an 8 league team, and then they added 2 people. So my team is very very young. We have a lot of young wide receivers. My quarterbacks, I'm okay with stuff like that. So the first 3 picks were pretty chalk. So I had the 2, the 4, the 6, and the 7. Um, when the draft started, like I was trying to trade picks out because I feel like people get desperate. I didn't get anything that I really liked that much. Of course, I went Neighbors with 2. He seemed like the most logical choice. Again, Matt has been on Neighbors quite a bit with. He's going to get a ton of volume. So when it got to 4, I've done so many mocks where it's like, do I take Caleb here? Do I take Brock Bowers here? Like those are the 2 probably top 5 talents in the draft that I was really excited about. And then Bowers just went to a fit that I didn't really like. I have Kyle Pitts, which I'm very high on, and then I have Jordan Love, who did really well last year, and I'm pretty excited. And I saw the investment in Trevor Lawrence, and this being a 1 quarterback league, I said I'm going to take a shot here, and I went Xavier Worthy to maybe bet on that Tyreek Hill upside, that wide receiver. That was kind of my thinking. At 5, they went Bowers, which is what I kind of expected. And then this is where things I was like, I don't know. I felt like I needed to go running back. I have Bijan and Jameer Gibbs, so maybe it's a little overkill, but man, running backs are just hard to pass up. But I have a ton of young wide receivers. I believe I have Garrett Wilson. I have Drake London. So I have a bunch of young guys in there. So I felt okay at wide receivers, adding Xavier Worthy and Malik Neighbors. And again, like I said, I'm kind of set with Kyle Pitts, and I'm set with Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence. So I went running back to back with Jordan Brooks and Trey Benson to just kind of overtake that running back in this draft and kind of own that spot and say, hey, I'm going to take both the top guys and see what they are. I'm going to take my shot in the first round. And then my last pick was actually in the 4th round, and I know Matt's gonna love this last pick, and it's Michael Penix, because for some odd reason he lasted to the 4-3, and I said, you know what, my team is I draft Falcons, so I gotta take one. So I took Penix at the very end. I didn't think he was gonna be there. I tried trading up a couple of times, no one would budge. So I was pretty happy that I got him in the back end of the round where I could kind of add to my quarterback room. Um, it just add a little bit more depth there. But Matt, do you see anything that sticks out? Any thoughts about that draft?
No, just kind of rolling through. It actually makes a lot of sense to me. I can see why people did. And again, this all depends on your structure of your team and kind of what you need. But Neighbors is great. Worthy's great. Benson and you got Brooks there, but I like Benson following Brooks. I think I think Benson is going to be very good. Quorum is a little bit early for me, but if somebody needed a running back, and again, if they have Kyron, then I don't mind that at all. But the rest of that is it looks good. It really does. Looks good.
The ones that I did see that were kind of early was the Malachi Corley. I don't know how Jaden Daniels lasted to the 2-9. Like I was trying to trade up for him because I was like, how does he not go higher? The Benson is a guy that Chance, who has been on the show before, he took pretty early, and we've talked about him a lot, so he was pretty high on him. But those are the kind of ones where I was like, why are these guys going where they're going? So, and I got a couple of guys that I picked up at free agency that I was pretty happy about as well.
I don't, I can see Jaden Daniels fall in there. If you're watching us on this channel, I agree with you. Jaden Daniels should be up higher, but I can see in some leagues him falling, especially in a one QB league where this is what you have here. Um, but yeah, if you could have got him too, oh my goodness, that's crazy. But yeah, he shouldn't be going that low even in one QB. But I can certainly see it. Some people are not as high on Jaden Daniels because they don't understand him, and with him falling, he's really behind Cousins. They're like, well, why would I take him now? He's behind Cousins. I'm like, yeah, you're not looking long term here. So, but I certainly see it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't see anything. Was there anybody? Was there after following this draft? Was there anybody picked up that you like? We should have drafted him.
It wasn't crazy again with a one quarterback league. Like I feel like it's mostly just like positional players and a few quarterbacks thrown in. But with this draft having so many decent quarterbacks, like I feel like in our dynasty draft last week, like Spencer Rattler went pretty high, and Spencer Rattler did not even get thought about in this draft. Like it's mostly position guys. Like
Yeah,
again, like you don't see a lot of quarterbacks get drafted. Like last year, I think only two got drafted, and like tight ends were a little like even like Theo Johnson going that high was pretty interesting, even though he was the last pick. But like the running backs, there's a ton of running backs on here that I don't think even went in our league. Like I don't know if Tyrone Tracy went. Like
I
Balin
don't think
Allen
so.
didn't go in our draft. The Ali kid didn't go in our draft. The Gerardo kid didn't go in our draft. The
Right.
Vidal kid didn't go in our draft. So like it is very heavy position wide receiver running backs.
Agreed. And yeah, I think the reason why some of those didn't go, and this is a complete assumption on my part, but I don't believe, and we all know this if you're in the dynasty community in general, really the two running backs in here are Brooks and Benson. Quorum could do well, Jay Wright could do well, and Lloyd, right? That to me, those are kind of your top five that potential. This running back class we have to keep saying is not as talented as previous, and next year is much more talented. So I can see why some of those running backs didn't go. And they're like, you know what, I'm gonna fan them. I'm not gonna waste draft capital, and I'll try to get something next year. I keep seeing that in other drafts that I'm doing. Another dynasty look or a dynasty startup. I'm seeing that quite a bit. So it's like, okay, yeah, we're not gonna we're fading them. We'll pick them up super late, but it's if I miss out, it's not a big deal.
For sure. And then like this is a good segue to the next thing we're going to talk about is we had a pretty big draft, a big trade go down in our other league, that me and Matt's league, um, that involved a bunch of draft picks. So I gotta pull that up real quick. Here we go. So we're gonna talk a little bit why. So this is my team, and then someone that we traded with. So the understanding that I got from this user was, hey, I want to rebuild this team. So Matt knows all about my team. Like we're very much win now, and I don't draft a lot just because I want to win as much as I can. I don't have any draft picks next year, and I just traded my 2026 away. So Matt already kind of alluded to it about the 2025 draft class. Again, there are some unknowns, but this next draft class it's very much defensive heavy. So it's almost the opposite of this year's draft, where there could be 14 defensive linemen taken in this draft. There's just so many blue chip guys on the D line. If you watch college football, if you watch City, the 2025 stuff, there's just a ton of them. There is a few wide receivers like the Luther Burden kid from Missouri. There's a kid from Arizona, and then the kid from Ohio State that should be first round draft picks. But the running backs next year, there is 5 or 6 of them that realistically could go in the first. You have Ollie Gordon. You have both the kids from Ohio State. You have Genty from Boise State, who I think is going to go in the first round. He might be the best back in the nation. That is a total homer Boise State fan saying that. But there is a lot of good running backs in next year's draft class. But again, offensive wise, compared the 2024 class to the 2025 class, they are very, very different. So my thinking with this was, hey, I'm just going to get rid of these draft picks. I got rid of a 2026 draft pick because he wanted a draft pick. I said, whatever, we'll throw that in. So I ended up getting Keandre Miller and AJ Brown, for DK Metcalf, Jahan Dotson, a third, and a first in 2026. Jahan Dotson is a guy that I kind of wanted to see what would happen with him, but wasn't a guy that would ever start on my team having Jamar Chase, CD, and Amon. Like, he just won't start on my team. So he's a guy that I decided to get rid of. Same with DK. I don't think they can necessarily contribute to my team. And I, as a team that is trying to win championships, like, I use the analogy of tractors and trailers. So your tractors are things that pull your team, like a Josh Allen, a CD, a Jamar Chase. Those guys can win you weeks. I feel like AJ Brown can add to that, where he might be able to win me a week. And then the Keandre Miller thing is, I'm just going to take shots at running backs. He's young. He's 21 still. We'll get more in depth to talk about him a little bit later. But with me not having draft capital, I am trying to bet on young running backs to be able to fill my team. I do have Breece Hall and Jonathan Taylor, so I do have good running backs in my toe to be able to contribute to my team. So that was kind of my thinking. So Matt, what was your kind of reaction when you saw it? What were your thoughts about it?
Yeah, no, again, you've already stated it, but just your construct is very much win now, and I like this trade for you. I actually, both sides is good, understanding the other manager side, but yeah, this is a very good trade for you. I really think AJ Brown, that Eagles offense this year, is going to be something else. I think underneath Kellen Moore. It's a win-win on both sides here. He gets the draft capital. You're in a win now mode. Let's get it done. A sneaky player out of this. I'm a big Jahan Dotson fan. It's a make or break year for him. I think this is year 3 for him. With JD5 throwing him the ball, he's a streaky guy. Get down the field. I like him. I've tried to pick him up in as many places as I could. Now the other manager gets him, which is fine. But I think it's good. Kendre Miller to me, and he's going to be on our list when we get to the buy sell stuff here in just a minute. But I don't want to spoil that one. But yeah, we'll talk more about him. But yeah, I think this is a good fair trade all around. And it, when you're talking about trades and what you're trying to do, it's what do I need right now? We talk about what does a win stand for? What's important now? Well, am I in rebuild mode or am I in win mode? Right. And so this is a fair trade both ways.
And the funny thing, like before we started the show, I was telling Matt, I was like, when I first started this trade discussion, it was just about Miller, and it just evolved into this where it was like we were just going back and forth for about 2 days about it. You know, like, hey, I need draft capital. I was like, all right, tell me what you want, and then we just kept going back and forth with it, where it was probably 6 or 7 different trade offers. So like, I think that's a good, like, have an open conversation. That's what makes leagues fun, when you have guys that are engaged and they hit you back on trades. That's one thing I try to be active in my leagues, is like when people send me trade offers, don't just decline it, but give them feedback. Like, hey, I'm not trading him. I don't like this trade, or oh, like this something we can go with, counter them, stuff like that.
Yeah, when you're trading, it's a 100% negotiation, and you have to understand the person that you're trying to trade with. And, you know, what is their team? What are they after? What are they willing to pay for? What are you trying to get out of it? Like, everybody's trying to win a trade. Like, that's the end of the day. It's like, well, winning a trade is dependent on what you need for your team. And we'll talk about more stuff down the road as we kind of grow the channel and understanding how trades work and how to navigate trades and stuff like that. So, like, good stuff. This is a good trade. You did well, Justin.
Yeah. And then one more tip. Like, everybody has logos in Sleeper or in ESPN. Like, pay attention to that. Most of the times they'll put their favorite team. Like, as you can see, this guy is a Washington fan. So I was like, maybe he likes Jahan Dotson. Yeah. So I know Matt, like, me and Matt have been talking about Bijan. It's just not going to happen. Like, I'm never going to get him. And I'm a Falcons fan. Like, he's not traded to me. I offered him. No. I offered him a lot. He said no.
The moon. I'm just not ready to move off of him yet. But I will remember that, right, as a Bijan owner, that he is an Atlanta Falcons fan, and when he has a Bears player, I might end up paying a little bit more, and there is something to that, and that's what makes it fun. Just trying to win your league and bragging rights and all that. So, and be careful with that when you are accepting trades. Don't always take your guy just because you think, oh, I got to have my guy because it's my team. That it will burn you. So just understand.
Oh yeah, that. For sure. I almost gave up CD and Amon St. Brown for Bijan.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So. Well, let's get right in. So we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the show today, and this is buy, sell trades in Dynasty. right? So who are we targeting? Who do we want to sell away? What are we trying to do? And again, this all depends on the construct of what you got going on right now. But Justin and I talked, these are players that we would be targeting, and there's probably a couple that we disagree on, but that's okay. These are the ones we believe will, you know what, you can get value for right now, or get these guys on your team because they're going to help your team. The very first place, and I already talked about a little bit, is Kendre Miller. So Justin, you talk about Kendre Miller and what we think about him, and then we'll let the viewers know which direction we're going with him.
So I've been trying to get him in a couple leagues, not just the one in Mets, but my other league. So the biggest thing that I like just trying to do research on the guys that I thought about. So Alvin Kamara averaged 3.9 yards a carry last year. Like the only reason he was fantasy relevant is because he was catching a ton of balls. Miller, he missed basically all of their offseason stuff coming in. So he was coming back, I think, from a knee. So it took him so long to get back into the grooves, and he got a bunch of games, and he missed like 5 games in the middle of the season. And in the very end of the season, he got the majority of the backfield. So I think their week 18 game, he got majority of the touches, at least the rushing touches. He could catch the ball, he could do all that stuff. I just remember watching him at TCU and against Michigan. He only had, I think, 13 carries against Michigan. That really good defense that they TCU beat Michigan in the semis the year before he got drafted. But he averaged 8 yards a carry against Michigan, and I don't think any TCU offensive lineman got drafted. I think one got drafted this year, but like they weren't known for grounded pound. Like he's 21 years old. Like again, there's not a lot of running backs. Matt has talked about this a lot this year. It's like there's a bunch of running backs by committees. Like he is one that can take the bulk of the first and down stuff. And again, Alvin Kamara is 29. He's 29 years old. He has touched the ball a ton. He has a ton of tread on the tires. It feels like he's speed walking when he catches the ball. Like he's getting those balls out of the backfield, and that's about it. I think Miller can come in here and he can own this backfield pretty easy. I don't think the Saints are going to be that great of a team, but if I could have the RB1 on any team that's going to get a 60-40 split, a 70-30 split, I'm going to bet on that all day. And he's 21, so I'm going to bet on that.
Yeah, and just to clarify on this one, so his birthday is in June, so he'll be 22 when the season starts. Justin's 100% right. He was injured most of last year. He still did get, I think, 41 last year. Had 41 carries for 156 yards. He was averaging nearly 4 yards per carry on a team that couldn't throw the ball with Carr out. It wasn't good. In addition to, if the Saints want to keep Kamara healthy and use him as a second, third down back, give the ball to Kendre. Right now, I think Justin and I both agree that Kendre Miller here is going to be a buy. Right. I think we say, yeah, let's get him. The one caveat I think here is, remember, I don't know if the Saints are going to be very good this year. And I have a gut feeling that they're going to get a coaching change and a quarterback change next year. So if you have a new quarterback and a new head coach, is Kendre Miller their guy? I still think he would be. He is, again, he's 6 foot 220, and he can play. Hey, 22 years old. I don't know why you would move on from him. So he is a buy in our setup for sure.
He's very similar, like, now that you've mentioned that, like, to what Javonte Williams is. Like,
yeah,
can he overcome him not being the guy that Sean Payton drafted? Which I think he is. I think I'm going to bet on the talent. Javonte Williams was a stud his rookie year. Agreed. So they're kind of similar situations. So it'd be interesting to see. Yeah. And the Saints invested in first round. They drafted an lineman that is a very highly graded run blocking guard. I mean tackles.
So Justin, we're a couple. Give us an idea how we can go get Kendre if we're going to go out and buy him. Give me a package that you would send out for.
So I think he might be a throw-in. Like with a lot of these second-year guys, people forget about him. So like maybe you're trying to make a big trade for CD or something like that. Like, hey, just throw in Kendre and we'll make it done. I think he's one of those guys. Again, he's a running back that is young, so maybe it's not a throw-in, but like maybe you're a rebuilding team and you have Derrick Henry. So you say, you give me Derrick Henry and sorry, I'll give you Derrick Henry. You give me a second and Miller, something like that. Something like if you have Derrick Henry and you're on a rebuilding team, like sell him now. If you like, there's a couple guys that I feel like get rid of him right now because he's worth a ton of money and he's probably got one more year. So like a running back for that, like someone that wants a sustained value like a Derrick Henry, I think he's someone that you probably could trade for. So
Yep, I agree. I think that is a great package. Go get him. We say go get Kendra Miller. On to our next player, Justin. Jalen Hurts. Tell us your thoughts. What are we thinking? I'm a little surprised he's on our list.
Matt's gonna hate me on this. So Matt is a big Jalen Hurts guy, and I am not saying I'm not. Okay, I hate the Eagles. Like one of my good friends, Kadrick, is an Eagles fan, and like they just had a ton of success. So the thing with Jalen Hurts is, I think he will get a lot less running. I don't think he will get QB sneaks. I don't think Kellen's going to drop a ton of QB design stuff. That's just not his offense. That's just how I think. Been watching Kellen play football, watching him call plays for the Cowboys, all that stuff. I think them signing Saquon Barkley, they're going to lean on him. They're going to lean on him a ton. They're going to give him the ball a ton. It could be like rookie year, like the first 2-3 years with Zeke, where they just give him an enormous amount of carries because he's on a 3-year deal. He's probably done after those 3 years. So like, let's run the legs off this kid. I think people are also kind of underlooking the fact about Jason Kelce leaving. So Jason Kelce, I think, was a big proponent of the tush push. So them breaking in a new center, I think it's going to be Jurgens. I don't know yet, though. I haven't looked at their depth chart too much. Do they do less of that and just start running power with Saquon? I don't know. I think he was a very big impact on that. As with Jalen Hurts, so this also will lead into the next guy. They just don't run the ball. Like I think Jalen Hurts is going to have his running ability taken away, which is why he's so good. Like throwing the ball last year, he was not great. I think he threw 15 interceptions and 23 touchdowns. The reason he was so dominant is because I think he had 15 touchdowns. Like I think that goes away. I think it's maybe closer to 6, 8-ish. I don't think it's going to be astronomical like it was last year. So
yeah, no, yeah, he had so he threw for nearly 4,000 yards, right? 3,800 and change. He'd have 15 INTs and 23 passing touchdowns. So he also ran for 15 touchdowns.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. It's probably hard to replicate it again. I don't really care too much about the tush push. I think just the way they teach that, I don't think it matters about any individual person. Is my thought. I could be wrong, but my thought, they'll line that up. I do agree with you. That's probably not Kellen Moore's style. I do agree with you that they're going to utilize Barkley. They went out and got a guy. They got a dude, and that helps Jalen Hurts stay healthy. They need him on the field, and I think he was a little bit banged up, and I think most people know that already, but keep him on the field. That is their way to win the Super Bowl, and they've worked on their defense, added a couple secondary guys. It's hard for me to sell him, which is what we have him on our list. However, if you're going to sell him, you got to get a mint. For sure. And I don't know. It's got to be the 101 and some change, in my opinion, as well as a few guys.
Here you go, Matt. Here's a question for you. Would you trade him for CJ Stroud and Tank Dell?
Yeah, I probably would. Depending on where I'm at, if there's a guy that's kind of a manager in our league that's, trying to grow and trying to get somebody, I want your 101, right? Because maybe they're at the end. I think it's going to help them. Hurts is only 25 years old. He's young, right? In quarterback stuff, he's young. Give me the 101, and maybe I get the 101 and a Marvin Harrison. Maybe I get the 101 and a St. Brown. Like I'm asking the moon for Hurts. It's like, okay, And this all depends on my quarterback situation, right? I got to have somebody there. So I can see why you'd want to sell him. I'm a little different, but for the show, I'll agree with it. All right. Moving on to the next one. Our next person here is Devontae Smith. What are we doing with Devontae Smith? What are your thoughts?
Oh man, so this goes right to the Jalen Hurts stuff. Okay, so the new OC, so Shane Williams Rhodes talked about this a lot last week about Kellen's offense, how Smith is a perfect fit in this offense, and how he's just gonna. I feel like he's kind of the forgotten man. Like the kid won a Heisman. Like he was so good. His body control, his route running, like all those things fit Kellen to a T. Like Keenan Allen had a career year with Kellen, and I think Devontae Smith's going to have that same situation. So with Kellen's always on average thrown the ball 550 times. Over that, it's usually over that. It's like 580 usually. Okay, Jalen Hurts has never thrown the ball over 530 times, and the one time he threw it for close to 530 was once. It's always like four something, like 470, 450. So that is almost 100 more attempts. So you know AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are getting. Now I did throw AJ Smith in here because, as you can see, he's a lot to pay for. Like I showed you the AJ Brown trade already off the back. Like it was a lot of money. It was a lot, and I just did it because I said I want to go for it. If you're in that case, then sure, throw a first round draft pick. Okay, they paid Devontae Smith. I know they paid AJ too, but they paid Devontae Smith, so they are invested in. He is the younger player. I think they're going to throw this rock all over the yard with Kellen, and I just think this offense is going to be very good. Like again, it's not an indictment on Jalen Hurts. Like I think he's going to be better as a passer. Maybe that 23-15 is now a 32-8, hopefully, which are looking for touchdowns and stuff, and that's going to only help Devontae Smith. They have Dallas Goedert too. Like they have a bunch of guys in that offense that can play well. I think you could trade for Devontae Smith pretty easy. I think a lot of the rookie guys are pretty um, attractive to someone that wants to get rid of Devontae because he's been so kind of averagey, like a wide receiver 15, or like maybe you can go get him for pretty cheap right now.
Yeah, no. Well, you alluded right to it. He is on our buy list. I like Devontae Smith a lot with Kellen Moore going in there. You he may not produce this year, but by next year, remember we're in Dynasty. By next year, yes, he's going to get more looks. This year, I think the most he's ever had in targets was in 22 at 136. He only had 112 last year. I say only, which is good, but he had 1,000 yards. Imagine another 30, 40 looks, right? It's like right. He could be a 10 touchdown guy, right? With I don't know, 1,200, 1,300 yards with AJ Brown in that Kellen Moore offense. It's coming. Like I said, it may not be this year, but certainly by next year. And now's the time to buy him. Don't wait till next year to try to get him because he's going to be too expensive. Some of the, if you wanted to play that game, if you're ready to move a little bit off of Tyreek Hill, right? Sell Tyreek Hill.
I like that.
Sell Tyreek Hill, get a package, and throw Devontae Smith in it, right? I don't think that's bad at all. So I think it's worth it.
What I think. This next guy, I want Matt to talk about first because I've offered Matt this guy a couple of times.
Oh, we're gonna talk Stephon Diggs. Sorry.
We're gonna talk Diggs. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. We're gonna let's talk Diggs here, and I think everybody knows this already, but we are selling Diggs. Now, I think there's a little bit of caveat to that because we just seen all the bad stuff. Could he go into Houston and be productive? Yes, it's a possibility. We could get, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, good Diggs for a while. But the minute things go bad, it's going to go bad, really bad. And that I know they restructured his contract, so it's a 1 year and it's a little bit cheaper. But I don't trust Diggs as far as I can throw him. I think he's an elite player. I do, and he's got all the talent in the world. But dang, I'm not there's too many mouths to feed. I think he was brought in to be that a bonus wide receiver, a little bit of depth, because I think they kind of, with Dell getting hurt last year, hurt them, and they're certainly a playoff team. They could even go further with some of the pieces they brought in. But from a fantasy value, he's not the Diggs of old. I'm selling Diggs. I'm going to see what I can get for him.
Absolutely. In my eyes, he might be the third or fourth option in that offense, realistically. Like, CJ Stroud loves Tank Dell. Like, he told the Texans to go draft him. They have Dalton Schultz still. I think John Mechie could still be something. It'd be kind of fun to watch him. I think, like Matt already talked about it, like the Bills let him go for cheap. Like, cheap. They said, go, leave. And then they ate some of that contract. And then the Texans turned around and made it a 1-year deal. So I'm just like, man, he's still Stephon Diggs. Like, that's the thing that people are forgetting. Like, he has that name value where people are like, oh man, it's Stephon Diggs. I have Stephon Diggs on my team. So, like, you could probably get a decent amount if it's picks, if it's a player. Like, maybe someone's crazy enough to trade you Devontae Smith for Stephon Diggs because they're like, oh, Stephon Diggs is number one option in this offense. Like, I don't think he's out targeting Nico, and I don't think he's out targeting Tank Dell. Like, those guys, CJ loves those guys. So, like, he's just a big name guy that I think you could probably get a little bit more value of. Like, jump off the train a year early rather than a year late.
Yeah, I agree. Just looking at some of his stats last year, let me pull up kind of what even in an offense where he was frustrated and really Josh Allen carried that entire offense in the playoffs, I thought there was no way that they were going to make the playoffs. I would have bet money on it, and that Josh Allen did amazing things, and everybody saw that. So I don't have to beat that drum. But Stephon Diggs had 160 targets last year. He has had nearly 160 targets for the last 4 years. But yet he hasn't, right? There was good times, there was bad times. I'm like, so you went from Josh Allen throwing the ball, and we like Houston, we like the atmosphere there, but I don't see it. I think it's a decline's coming. So selling for what you can. I think you can get an easily a second round pick out of him for the right person, or you can get a couple players in exchange for somebody that wants to win right now. Maybe somebody that has is in a win mode, I guess is what I'm saying. So sell on Diggs.
He just disappeared at the end of the year. That was a tough thing. Like, he just didn't do anything at the end of the year. So that was kind of a tough thing that I saw. Like, I don't
know. Yeah. Our next player up here, you have a buy. Now I'm a little bit interested in this next player as a buy for you. And it's Mr. Will Levis.
Tell me Mr.
Mayonnaise. Tell Mr. Mayonnaise, tell me what your thoughts here are.
Okay, so I'm thinking from a strictly super flex perspective. If you can go get him in one quarterback leagues, like, send it. Like, Will Levis is not highly thought about, like, in this league. Like, he doesn't see pressure. He just likes to throw the ball. Like, he had a really good game against the Falcons and then, like, did nothing. So I think the new OC, the new head coach, Brian Callahan, I think he's going to do really good stuff. He did really good stuff with the Bengals. And then they brought in his dad, who, Bill Callahan, is probably one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. So I think that's going to help him a ton. I think having an offense that is just about throwing the ball a ton, like when he was with the Bengals, their new head coach, like they had a ton of wide receiver 3 sets where they just threw the ball around. They're not going to be heavy run based. I think they will use him into some designed runs. They added Ridley, they added Tyler Boyd, they added Tony Pollard. They took J.C. Latham in the first. Like, they invested in this offense to say, hey, we're going to go see what Levis is. And, like, I love when teams do this because we can see what they are. Like, we can finally see if they're going to be good or not. I think, like I said, I think he's fearless. Like, he's going to throw some picks. He might give you a Jameis Winston year where it's 30-30. But, like, they're going to see what they have in it, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it. I think you can get him right now for a second rounder, right? Next year's second rounder, and that's okay. If you're needing a quarterback, the Titans are not going to write him off for at at least until after next year, right? So you've got 2 years of Will Levis, in my opinion. I think they're going to go, know what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to stick with it. And we're going to try to build around him and give him some weapons. And as you alluded to already, Justin, they did. So, and try to protect the kid. I think their first, it was an ult, right? The Titans get ult.
They got Latham.
That's right. Yeah, Latham. So another great offensive lineman. So he threw for 1,800 yards with really nobody to throw to. 255 attempts. So he's worth a stash. He's worth a shot in Superflex for sure.
Yep.
So if you have a second rounder, see if you can get him. I don't think it's a bad pick at all.
Yep.
Our next guy here, Mr. Amari Cooper. Thoughts on Cooper?
So the reason I thought about him is someone was trying to sell me Jerry Jeudy the other day, and I was just like, I'm not a Jerry Jeudy guy. I'm not a Browns offense guy. Like, just not. I don't want to be that offense because of Deshaun Watson, because I'm just a Deshaun Watson hater. So he had a huge fantasy playoffs with Joe Flacco. So that's what people are going to remember. Like, he had a huge time because Joe Flacco was slinging that rock around the yard. And I don't feel like he has chemistry with Deshaun, and like they didn't play well. And Deshaun's not a good quarterback right now. Like, ever since he was suspended for a year, like, he looks bad. Like, he does not look like a good quarterback. He's competing with Jerry Jeudy now for touches. Who, I don't know, maybe Jerry Jeudy pops. I don't know. I think he was a good trade. I think he was a good flyer on him. They have Elijah Moore, who they traded for last year. Amari Cooper's been in this league for, it feels like, 12 years. He's been in the league for a long time. So he's at 30. That's kind of the tipping point. Does he disappear? Kind of like Diggs did last year. David Njoku really balled out last year. Is this his kind of maturation age? It just took him a while to kind of really reach that potential where I think he was a top 5 tight end last year. So there's a lot of targets in this offense that it could go to besides Amari Cooper. Like, again, same thing as Diggs. Like, he still has that name value, but I would try to get off him if you can.
He will turn 30 here in June. You're 100%. And let me pull it up. I think it's pretty obvious we're selling Cooper. The interesting thing is the last 5 seasons, he's been a 1,000-yard receiver except for 2021. He's kind of like the Energizer Bunny. It just kind of keeps going and going, and it doesn't matter. I think now is the time to sell high on him. I think you can get some good value out of him. It's just hard because I kind of get it if you want to keep him and see. But I'm with you. I'm really not on the Browns offense. About the only Browns player that I probably want is Ford on a late flyer, but I don't see it. He's gotten a ton of targets, 70, nearly 80 receptions the last couple of years. I'm not feeling it. And at the same time, he could probably prove us wrong. You're just trying to guess here. So I think for Cooper, you can get.
Let me give you some would you rather's. Ricky Pearsall or Amari Cooper.
Depending on where I'm at, probably Ricky.
Okay. A.D. Mitchell. Terry McLaurin.
Ooh. This year? Ooh, man, that's a tough one. Ooh, I guess give me Terry just based on the quarterback. Hopeful quarterback. If I need it. Yeah, give me Mixon. Oh, man, that's hard too, but give me Mixon. I don't like Amari.
Yeah, what about David Montgomery?
Nah, I'll probably stick with Amari over Montgomery at this point, unless I have Gibbs.
And then Javonte Williams.
Yeah, give me Amari at this point until Javonte comes around. But I think you can get guys, just kind of pulling up here. I'm trying to see. You can get, if you're kind of some of those guys, like for me, I'd almost take the gamble on Christian Watson over Amari Cooper, and it's close, right? So think something like that, or get a package, get a second rounder for him if you can, because his value is kind of high right now. But we are off the Amari Cooper train. Our next guy up, I think this one's pretty easy, Mr. Bryce Young, which I know you are a fan of, but take it away.
So when he came out, I wasn't a huge fan of him, but like the way his like draft capital has just, or his capital in general in Dynasty has just plummeted. Like people do not want anything to do with it. Like I don't think he can go that far. Like don't sway that far off of somebody. Like he was still in Superflex. Like he still was a first round draft pick. Like he was a number one overall pick. Like he was that pick for a reason. The biggest thing that I like is like they invested in the interior line. Like he got killed last year. Like go back and just watch his tape. Like he got absolutely destroyed. And like that's not advantageous for any quarterback to play that. Like kind of like a David Carr situation with the Texans back in the day. Like he got killed. So the cool thing about the Panthers, they were kind of smart. They spent $150 million on the interior of their line. So they went out and got Robert Hunt from the Dolphins and Damian Lewis for the Seahawks. So I think now they have the most money invested in their O line in the NFL at like $70 million a year. It's like right above the Falcons. They're going to push their previous guard Kober over to center, which that should lock up their interior. And then they still have Ike Ekwonu, who they drafted a couple years ago at left tackle, and then they'll have Morton on the right side. So they should have a decent O-line where he can make some faster checks. With Canales coming in, it should be a quick offense. Again, you're not going to get rushing upside from Bryce. That's not his game. Hopefully, you could just get a ton of after some yak monsters, which they have drafted, like Amigos, Leggett, and Deontay Johnson. I think is really going to flourish in this offense with him just get peppered with targets. I feel like he is a upgraded version of Adam Thielen, and Adam Thielen was cooking in that offense like the first 7 weeks. So like they got Jonathan Brooks, good pass catching back. They went out and got Xavier Leggett. They went out and got Deontay Johnson. Like they are trying to do the same thing with Will Levis as Bryce Young. They're surrounding him with talent. Let's see what we got in Bryce. Can we salvage this? I think you can go out there and throw a third at him and maybe be able to get him.
Yeah, a third rounder, and I think you could get, I think you can get like probably it depends on how you feel on like a JSN, where people aren't really, he's in that weird phase right now, and if you don't really need him, I think you could get a JSN for Bryce Young pretty easy. It's like, I'll give you JSN with the upside. I agree with you. Just looking at some stats, how many attempts do you think Bryce Young had last year?
370.
Not even close. 527.
What?
He had a massive amount of attempts, and I get it. They're constantly playing from behind. His rushing attempts were 39, which he probably was running for his life on those. So they want to use him. He had 10, 11. He only had 10 TDs and he had 11 TDs and 10 interceptions. So I get it, but he didn't have anybody to throw to. It wasn't good. The line wasn't good. Nothing was good about the Panthers. So I think I agree with you. Give him a shot. He's cheap. He's a first round pick. We've seen first round picks do this before. There's value there. There's value. Just give it a shot. You're not out anything at all. So, nope. and if you're and we're talking super flex, give it a go. So, our next guy here, I'm a little surprised by this one too. And remember, I want to emphasize, I just said it. This is Dynasty. This is Dynasty. And I like this kid a lot this year. So redraft, I'm buying this kid all day long. But he's got some competition behind him. So Josh Jacobs. Tell me what's on Mr. Josh Jacobs.
Gosh, Josh Jacobs. It's probably because I'm a homer for Marshawn Lloyd. But yeah. Josh Jacobs had a terrible year last year. It was not good. And they ran the ball a crap ton. Like, Samir White looks pretty decent. Like, he's pretty hard commodity to get back right now. Like, people are invested in Samir White. So, Josh Jacobs averaged less yard per carry than Alvin Kamara. So, that should tell you how I feel about him. He averaged 3.5. Okay. Me and Matt were talking about this offline beforehand, where Green Bay just has a ton of weapons. They have so many good guys in an offense. That's why I love Jordan Love so much this year. Like they have four good wide receivers, two good tight ends, and three running backs. Like people are forgetting about AJ Dillon. Like he might steal some goal line stuff from Josh Jacobs. They're talking all this stuff about Josh Jacobs, like all this stuff, but like I think you could sell him for a lot right now because people are just going to buy the upside with him with Green Bay. That's the only reason I would sell him. Again, he's an older running back, has a ton of tread on the tires. Like he had a ton of carries at Alabama, so he's had a ton of carries with the Raiders. Like again, he fell off a cliff a year after leading the league in rushes. Like he's just a guy that maybe like his prime is past, and maybe you sell him for a young guy like a Brooks if you could, or a Keandre Miller plus. Maybe you try to get the young guy in Lloyd. Um, that's just my thoughts on that.
No, you're not wrong. I think there's some type of you could say like revenge something or other, maybe a revenge fantasy football season that he could come back into and try to recapture that that value in 22. But I think you have to understand something. So in 22, he was 4.9 yards a carry, roughly 5 yards a carry, but he had 340 carries, right? For 1,600 yards. That is an absolute ton of carries. Last year, 233, right? The offense wasn't good. They were stacking the boxes. I get that. And I kind of agree with you. I think Zamir Zeus, as we came, right, is a little bit better than Jacobs. He's going to a much better offense. He's going to do better than he did last year. But the thing that sold it for me in Dynasty, I really like Lloyd too. You might get a couple years out of Jacobs doing well. So if you can sell him high to a team that's in a win now mode and get a first round draft capital plus, I certainly would do that. I think you can do that. If you're in a mode right now where you're winning, maybe I would hold. But I could certainly see why you would want to sell Josh Jacobs for a price at the right spot. I don't think he's going to capture that 22 season at all. He's not a ton. I mean, he had 64 targets a couple years ago, 54 targets last year. I don't really think that's his game as a reception guy. I think it was just what was needed of him. I think you're going to see Lloyd. Lloyd's good. That's all I have to say is Lloyd's good. But I would agree. I'm selling Jacobs too. See what you can get for him. Get a first out of him, mid-round first, and sell high.
Yep.
Our next guy here is, well, this is one of Justin guys for sure. Kyle Pitts. Why are you buying high? Why are you buying our Mr. Pitts?
Ah, man, I love Kyle Pitts. I'm a Kyle Pitts truther. Have been. Okay. So Kyle Pitts is, man, you can correct me if I'm wrong. He's 23 still, right? And
yeah, he's a very young tight end for being in the league. But let me take a quick.
I'm pretty sure Dalton Kincaid is older than him. And Kyle Pitts is going to his third or fourth year. Like, he is young. So last year, I think a lot of people didn't realize. So he tore his meniscus and his MCL. Like they were like super shady about what happened to his knee 2 years ago, and that's why he looked kind of funky the first couple weeks. Like he was just running like super slow. And this is like a 4.4 guy. Like he's an incredible athlete. He's 6'6", 250. Like he's a freak. Again, in Kyle Pitts' first year with Matt Ryan, he had 1,000 yards as a tight end. Like, let's not forget that. Like, he was Sam Laporta without the touchdowns before Sam Laporta. Like, Kyle Pitts was a very good rookie to start the year. He didn't have those touchdowns because we don't throw touchdowns in the red zone as Falcons. Like, that's not what we do. Having Kirk come in, it seems like him and Kirk got off to a really good relationship. Like, there's a lot of good banter back and forth. They've done a lot of off-season stuff together. I think they went down to Florida. It was like him, Mooney, London, all went down to Florida and just kind of hung out. But it seems like there's going to be some kind of edge point there. I think Mooney's going to take a lot of the safety help away from Pitts, where Pitts can really work that intermediate in those seams, where he's really, really awesome at. He's going to be finally healthy from his knee injury. Like he's participating in all their offseason stuff right now. Zach Robinson knows how to use this weapon. Like I'm a very big believer that Zach Robinson's going to use him like Puka. Like Puka was such a focal point of that offense. I feel like that's what Kyle Pitts. I mean, that's what Kyle Pitts will be. I feel like it's him, it's Bijan and it's Drake are going to be those focal points, and they're just going to feed him. When Kirk did have Hawkinson, like he peppered Hawkinson with touches. So I feel like it's going to be that same situation. Kyle Pitts, I think this is going to be his lowest value. Like people saw last year, like he was not good last year. Like the offense was horrible. Like it was awful watching their offense. I think it's still going to cost like a pretty penny. Like maybe you could get Kincaid for him. Like maybe a Josh Jacobs. Like he's still going to cost a decent amount, but for a tight end that is going to be matchup proof and he's always going to have you at an advantage when you are playing games, I think he's a guy that you go and get because he is never going to be cheaper.
Yep. So you're right, Justin. He'll turn 24 in December. That's not sorry, October. So he is still a young tight end. What we know about tight ends, they typically break when they're 25. He has already been in the league 3 years. He had 1,000-yard receiving. He only got 53 targets last year, or 53. Or he had 90 targets, 53 receptions with a quarterback that couldn't throw. Right. So the potential's all there. You're 100% right. His value is extremely low right now, and you could get him for a Zay Flowers, right? If somebody's got a 2 tight end, you could get him for an A chain, right? You get certainly. I would pay a 2026 first for Pitts right now. Like I'd do it, smash it, done. I want him on my team, so I would certainly do that. I'm buying Pitts. There is no way, it's zero chance that he is not going to get used. He will absolutely 100% get used in this offense. It's not possible. Go get him right now. He is a league winner. He could win you league, especially in tight end premium. Go get him right now. Do it. Do it. You can, right after this broadcast, go get him.
No one's getting it for me. I'm just making that clear. No one in our league is getting it for me.
Well, yeah,
I have Mark Andrews.
But you will find people are like, you know what? I'm not hip on it. I don't know, right? They doubt that. But
got burned too many times by him already.
Yep. So. Go take advantage. Our last guy. I'm struggling with this one, but I kind of get it. And I'm going to give it away here a little bit, but CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is a sell on our list. If he's redraft, you're buying all day, but this is Dynasty. And this all hinges for us, at least for me, on what happens with Dak Prescott. If Dallas does not sign him and he goes and he goes, I don't know, maybe the Raiders or something. I don't know who's coming in. I have no idea. And so I'm willing to sell CeeDee Lamb right now. There's too many variables for me. If the Cowboys have a horrible season, what they're going to do is they're gonna pay CeeDee Lamb, they're gonna pay Parsons, and everybody else is okay. We're starting over. So that's tough for me. Is there a world where Dak 100% could get re-signed, which I'm kind of leaning that way? Yes, it's possible, and then we're okay. But the problem with Dak now is who just got paid. We just talked about at the very beginning of the show, right? You got Goff got paid a whole bunch of money, so the price keeps going up. Well, Jerry, what's the plan? It's the old adage goes, it's Jerry's world, and we're just living in it for Dallas. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think there's too many variables there for me. I'm okay with selling him, but it's kind of hard. The kid is elite talent. He could be the number 1 wide receiver for sure this year. So I'll kick it over to you.
So as a CD owner, like he won me the league last year. Like his last 5-6 games, like I had him in that Dak stack. Like I was killing teams like by 50 points because they were going touchdown crazy. Okay, so the thing is with CD, he had the wide receiver 1 season last year. Would you take CD or JJ straight up? Which one would you rather have, Matt?
Right now, with Dak there, I want CD. With the future, I don't know. At least I know what I'm getting. McCarthy. I want JJ. Right. if I'm doing it right now, is that what the ask is?
Dynasty. What are you doing?
Give me Jefferson.
Would you rather have Jamar Chase, or CD?
Oh, Chase all day long. Give me
Rather
Jamar
have
Chase all day long.
Marvin Harrison or CD?
Marvin Marvin Harrison.
Amon Ra.
He's stuck. Yeah, now there. I want St. Brown. I there's that's about the bucket, right? That's that top tiers right there. So he's number 4 in my mind, even though he is elite talent and could finish number 1 again this year. But in Dynasty, I'm gonna sell.
So he is my wide receiver 5 or 6 in Dynasty. I've tried to trade him straight up for Justin Jefferson just because of the unknown. Because I've seen like Justin Jefferson he is the most consistent
He's different.
1,600-yard wide receiver I have ever seen in my life. It is crazy to me. Okay, so with Dallas, like me and Matt, like we seem like the biggest Dallas haters, and like I don't want to come off as that, but I just don't understand at all what they're doing. Like they lost their best offensive lineman. Like there's no reason they should have lost Tyrone Smith. Like he should not be wearing a different jersey. Like he should have retired as a Cowboy. Like he's been there for too long. He's been such an incremental part. I mean, like such an important part of their offense, and I just don't understand why they let him go. This is the highest value he has. Like in Dynasty, in redraft, he is the wide receiver 1. Like if you look on a lot of sites, like he's the 1. So like if you can go turn him into Chase, JJ, Marvin Harrison, or Amon Ra, do it. Do it right now. Because I don't think like that like he is talented. I think he's a glorified slot receiver. I don't think he's that good on the outside. That's just my opinion. Like he eats on the inside, but I don't think he can do what Chase and JJ and what I think Marvin Harrison can do, where they can just go out and they can dominate games. Like they can. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. They are significantly better than any corner that is guarding them, and that is my opinion. Even as a CD Lamb, like owner and a guy that he won me my league last year, like I have tried to trade him for Justin Jefferson. Like I'm going to try to trade him for Marvin Harrison straight up and see what, because people saw what he did last year. I mean, I'm sure Matt has the stats on his crazy season last year, but he just went nuts.
Yeah, you're 100% right. We're not definitely Dallas haters by any stretch. You know, I have fond memories of the 90s, you know, Dallas dynasty. CeeDee Lamb was targeted 181 times. He had 135 catches, 12 touchdowns, right? The thing with Dallas needed a running game, and I thought 100% they're going to go out and address it, and it made sense. They're going to get Derrick Henry. That makes all the sense in the world to me. They're going to go out and get him. I think that's where Derrick Henry wanted to be, and they did nothing. I'm like, well, gosh, they have a good tight end, Ferguson, right? Even Shoemaker back there is from Michigan is good. They got one good wide receiver. If they could have re-signed their O-line, got a Derrick Henry. Their defense is legit and solid. And find me one more wide receiver that's a little bit better than what they had last year, and they lost a couple. That's fine. They're there. But it's like they went to sleep in the offseason. They just went, okay, well, we're going to just go to sleep here. And I'm like, well, what does that tell you? That doesn't feel like it's a win now mode. It doesn't feel like, well, okay, we're going to do everything we can right now to win. And the fact that they haven't signed Dak already, why would you wait? I don't want, like, if you're win now, you're like, hey, we're going to sign you right now. Now it feels like, well, let's see how you do this year. If you don't do really well, it's an easy trade. We get out of whatever. If you do really well, yeah, we'll sign you. But I don't know what you're waiting on. And I think Dallas fans would agree to that, but I don't know. I want Lamb to do well. I want Dak to do well. I have some shares in them, but I'm like frustrated too. I was like, gosh, guys, what are we doing? What are we waiting on? And it's frustrating. Can you imagine Henry in Dallas? Oh my gosh.
Like he took a visit because I remember I was watching, I think it was one of the Ravens. I think it was Marlon Humphreys, like his podcast. And like he called Derrick Henry and like he was in Dallas and like nothing happened. And like the Ravens just got on the phone with him, like, hey, we want you. We tried to trade for you last year. Get over here.
Yep. it's crazy. So we'll see what happens with Dallas. From a fantasy standpoint on CeeDee Lamb, I think it's worth if you can turn him into some gold, right? Really platinum. If you could turn that gold piece into some platinum, especially if you're not in win now mode, right? I'd do it. If you have plenty of depth, like I think in your dynasty team, you have plenty of depth, do it. I think you're gonna hopefully turn something into some really good pieces there. So
for sure. I think straight up, there's probably 8 players that I would trade CD straight up for in a league. I think it's those receivers I would trade sit up. I would trade Brees Hall, Bijan. Like those are the guys I want because I just feel like they're in a better spot.
yep, agreed. I agree. Well, Justin, I think that's all we got for our buys and sells. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you like what we had to say, leave us a comment, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, turn on those notifications. We try to go as much as we can. We are a little bit in the off season, like we mentioned earlier, but hit the like button, subscribe to us. Like I just said, repeated myself again, but we enjoy it. Leave us a comment. If you have a question, but we'll answer it. We enjoy fantasy football just as much as you guys, and we just like get stuff out there. Justin, anything you have before we sign off?
Nope, just excited for the year. Like go out there, do some trades, like go offer and go banter a little bit with your league mates. Like that's what makes fantasy football fun. Like gives you an excuse to talk with your friends and stuff. So
I agree. All right, everybody. Until next time, we are out. Have a great week and great weekend, and we'll see you next time.